streaming. I'm getting started here in just 1 second, guys. I'm getting my Instagram live going as well, so bear with me, YouTube, if you are on. I will be getting going here in 1 second. Alright, so here we go. Alright guys, so today I am doing a basic live demonstration. I'm actually going to move you guys a little bit closer here because I didn't know how much it would show in the camera and everything. So if you're watching on YouTube Live, welcome. If you're watching on Instagram Live, welcome as well. We are going to be doing a very specific alternative concepts to work positioning and things that I'm going to show you a little bit of demo live today. Now, you won't be using these in every aspect of work. I am outside, so if the signal cuts out a little bit, I apologize, but hopefully it'll stay pretty consistent for you guys. So, some of this you guys will have known or thought of on your own. What's interesting to me is that a lot of people just haven't thought of some of this stuff. So I'm going to go over it because I'm actually asked quite a bit about some of these techniques that I use in tree work and things that I just thought were kind of common. Okay, so that's why I'm going over this. So if you've seen one of these or thought of one of these, or if you're already using one of them, just wait and then we'll go on to another one, and maybe that one you won't have seen or used. So I don't know. Maybe you've used them all and seen them all. In the meantime, if you have any other suggestions, please let me know. I would like to know what it is that you're using or seeing, and what you are doing to make your work positioning more effective in the tree as well, right? That's what would be the purpose of this video. So today we're going to be speaking about mainly using your climbing rope for alternative purposes. It seems that a lot of people don't do that. And of course, you would want to be careful with that. You don't want to do anything that would potentially put your climbing line at risk, that would damage it while you're climbing on it or anything like that or whatnot, because of course you want it to be your safety line as primarily. And if you can use it in other ways, then there's a potential in that as well. Some of these I have mentioned briefly in the past, but some of them you guys have never heard me talk about. So let's go over them. So one thing that you'll see here is I have a Weaver nylon loop runner. I love this device. The loop runner is one of my favorite devices that I use in climbing. It's super handy, it's super beneficial, and it's something that is super practical for very quick and light, relatively lightweight functions. Okay, so one thing that I do a lot that is just saves me so much time and energy is if I'm in the tree and I'm climbing, let's say, and we're going to use this rope bag as a weight. It can be a chainsaw that I need to get to me, it can be rigging blocks, it can be anything that I need up in the tree. Okay, so let's say that this is my climb side that I'm on, all right, and this is the tail that I'm using. That's, I'm sorry, let's say this is my climb side that I'm on, and this is the basal side, okay? So I'm hanging up here, right, from this. I need something brought up to me, and I don't feel like hauling 15, 20, 30 pounds like this, because that gets tiresome when you're doing it 60 feet at a time, and it's just not super handy. Ruben, thank you for joining. Ruben's one of my Patreon members, so if you want to be a Patreon member, you can do so as well. And of course, want everybody to know that these videos are brought to you by Weaver Arborist, GapArborSupply.com, and Just Send It Saws. So I'm in the tree now. I'm going to do this the easy way because I'm right here. I've got the tail of my rope. You want to use like a rolling clip, or you could use a carabiner like this and open it up and open up the pulley on it. You could use just a straight carabiner, it's up to you. But I'm going to feed it through just for simplicity. So remember, I'm hanging off of this area up here on my device, right? This is below me. This is just kind of mangled up because I'm trying to show you guys while on the ground. So please forgive all the mangle. But, you know, I could bring it around this way too. Let me do that. It makes a little bit more sense, I think. All right, so this is my climb leg. This is my basal leg. Let me pull all this around. I'm in the tree 35 or more feet, and I've got to bring up the 661 or the 461. I can put the rope through. This is my climb leg, don't forget. I'm going to leave a little bit of bite hanging down. Going to have the groundy tie my chainsaw, whatever, onto this, right? Onto the end of my climb leg. I'm just using a bowline just because we all know that those are strong knots on a bowline on a bite. Now it's cinched off, right? Instead of me having to use all my arm strength and pull straight up like this, as we've all done a million times, because I have this set up, this line is hanging below me, my feet would be about, you know, here. I can just simply haul it up to me with a pulley, and I'm using my climb line tail. Clearly, if you have a rigging line, you could do the same thing, and that would be more than sufficient to do so. But now you have an easy way to haul or lower things, and you're just using your climb line, and there's very little risk of your climb line being damaged because of such, right? All right, so now you've got that. So that's one concept that you can use with an alternative work positioning concept of some sort for hauling or whatnot. You can do that with a bunch of different stuff. I even use the tail of my line in some cases in a pulley like this on a loop runner or a rigging sling. I can go and put this through another pulley on another branch, and I can actually pre-tension with my climb line and it never get damaged, because I can run it through a pulley over there, bring it back, and then have a 3-to-1 on it, and it's just my climb line. I'm not dealing with another leg of line. I'm not getting two rigging lines confused in the same area, you know, because if you having a climb line and a rigging line is confusing enough sometimes. But if you have a climb line and two rigging lines, it can become even more confusing, especially if you're only using one for pre-tensioning on something, and that's all you need it for. Let's say, it could be anything. Let's say you just need a little bit of security on a codominant so it doesn't split off when you're trying to climb on it. It could be that you're getting ready to cable and you want a little pre-tension, or it could even be something as simple as very light rigging, and you need a little bit of pre-tension on a line before you before your groundy locks it off for a V-rig, or, you know, a span rigging setup, or a high line or something like that. So yeah, just a few different options there. I'm waving at people on Instagram if you're wondering what I'm doing, moving back and forth to the camera. So that's just one idea, right? So tons of options for highlining and things like that, pre-tensioning, all those kinds of things. Now, this would not be an ideal setup. I do have two carabiners. It was just too short to come through, and I didn't want to go find another loop runner, so don't judge me on that. I'm not recommending this setup. This carabiner is cross-loaded. This one's not in a great position, so don't set it up like this. This is just demonstration reasons, okay? So what if you're not running a loop runner, or your loop runners are too short? Very good question. So a couple other options. We're still talking about the same concept, just like a hauling line or a rigging line or something like that. But now I have an adjustable friction saver here. All you have to do is adjust it for the diameter, or the circumference really, of the tree. You want to get this as close as you can to being right on or just slightly apart. With the carabiner, of course, you're going to want to be careful that you don't have it like this, right? So you're going to want to get the rings close together. And now you have another system that can work for hauling or whatever. See, this is bad. You don't want this. You want it like that. So you have to keep an eye on it. So you might want to slacken out just a little bit so it hangs down a little bit better. Once again, same concept. You can just do that. Now, here's another quick concept you can do that makes it a little bit easier. You can actually take the weight that you're going to haul up. So in this case, this is my weight. You can send down a bite. So here's my climb tail, right? We've established that this is the climb tail, and I am climbing up here. And your guy on the ground, or girl, whatever, can take the bite that you send down, put a carabiner on it, or a pulley would be even better. And now with your climb leg, once again, you have a hauling system, and it's going to give you a bit more mechanical benefit. So once again, just another way of using that same system. Adjustable friction saver becomes a wonderful setup for your system in that sense as well, as we've talked about. Now, another interesting fact about this is you can actually use your adjustable friction saver if it has a rope that you feel safe and comfortable with as an actual lanyard. So let's say you're in the tree with one lanyard and you need just one more, just as a temporary lanyard to get yourself you know, positioned the way you want to feel comfortable with. Sorry guys, trying to do something here real quick. Okay, and you just want a little bit more security for that one moment, right? So in this particular, I'm just going to use this that I have here. So here's your friction knot, of course, your prusik on your lanyard, and you can now, I mean, I wouldn't have the pulley on it. You could use the pulley on it though. If you wanted, you could just run the pulley through here. Just open that up. It's not going to run through there because that eye's too big. This is the Gap Arbor Supply pulley, by the way. And then I don't have a saddle on, so I'm going to makeshift with my belt loop. So imagine that's your D-ring, right? And imagine this tree is, you know, small enough. Now my friction saver has become a adjustable lanyard for whatever I need for a temporary use. It's super handy. I've used it that way in a couple of situations when I just need that little bit extra help in positioning. You know, it just becomes a really handy tool. Another thing that this is potentially handy for is that you can use your adjustable friction saver as a how to explain, as a retraverse, I guess is the best way to say it, from a long canopy traverse back to the neutral position. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, what in the world are you talking about, right? So here's the thing, like, let's say that Well, I guess I should go into something else real quick just before I do that. Even though I don't have it on me, I do carry a Captain Hook on me at times. And this is the end of my climb line. And as I've told you guys before, you can tie a bowline, a barrel knot. You can tie a figure eight on a bite, or a follow through figure eight, whatever you want to call it. They have various names that people call them. And let's say I want to get over into that canopy. You have the Captain Hook on the end of your line, and you throw it. All right, so I'm going to turn you guys a little bit. Bear with me. Tell me if you can see what I'm doing. All right, so now I'm in a different canopy with the Captain Hook, as you can see. And now this is the traverse that I am trying to make, right? I'm trying to get over there to work on something. I know these are two separate trees, but just bear with me for demonstration purposes. So you do all of your work over here, right? You're on this leg, this is your climb line. You do all your work over here, but now you have a 25-foot span to come back across. What do you do? Well, there's a number of things you can do, okay? One is, if you have it set up right, you can have your attachment here, and you can slightly let out until you're back across. And that's easy enough. However, oftentimes, you're dealing with a lot of rope to do that, or you might run out of rope. And that's never that fun, to be quite frank. And if you have a knot of any sort, it might get stuck on that side, right? Not very good. So you're gonna have to use the same amount of rope, but a more secure way of doing it would be to use your adjustable friction saver. So let's say you get over there, you know you're gonna have to traverse back to original position, okay? And you don't want to like get anything stuck over there, or you don't want to have to figure out how to get back to it or whatever, because the tree's got tight unions in it or whatnot. So especially like maples and things like that, what I'll do is I'll take this, I'll go over, and instead of running it through the union here, I'll choke it off on the stem, like so. Choke it off on the stem like so. I'm climbing, I'm climbing, I'm climbing. Now I've got to get back over to the tree that I'm going on. So let's get this in position. It's like this. Now I'm off. So I'll attach myself to this line, which is my original climb line. And I will slowly let myself go with this line here, just like I said before. And now I'm back in my neutral line position over here without having a huge free fall swing, right? And all I have to do is tie a simple overhand knot. Once I'm hanging from this side here, and now I have my attachment point from the redirect back to me, and I didn't have to worry about anything getting caught in tight unions. Okay, so that's another really big benefit to using that in that system. Now, on top of all of this, what you can do is you can also use your climbing line as a lanyard. So you might wonder, well, what in the world do you do with that? Well, you just take the end of your lanyard, or I'm sorry, your climbing line, and you would throw, I'm not going to take the prusik off the other device because it's just too much work. So I'm having to move the camera around a little bit on you guys. But I'm gonna take a loop runner, preferably one that's not daisy chained like this one is. And you are going to do your 6 prusik wrap, or you could use a prusik like that eye to eye one. I would not use this one because it's got these stitchings in it and makes it less ideal. You know, I'm just making this work, so bear with me one second. Like a climb heist on this one. So that would not be an ideal one with this loop runner, but it gives you an idea. Use a prusik on it. You can put your carabiner on it, clip it to your saddle, and in a pinch, I mean, you should have extra carabiners with you, but in a pinch, you could put a carabiner on the end of your climb line. So I am just going to do I was going to do something else, but I'll just do a basic bowline. It's super bulky. You wouldn't really want to do this for a climb, but it works for, it'll work in a pinch and it'll work for demonstration purposes. So now I would not have the pulley on there, of course. That's just not ideal. So I'll take the pulley off, throw it on the ground there. Okay, got a carabiner. This is double locking, not what you'd want to use. You'd want to use a triple locking. And oh, dang it, I missed my side D, or better known as my belt loop. All right, so now you've got your climbing line is now, the tail of it is working as another lanyard. So once again, if you just needed something makeshift to work for you for the moment, I mean, all I've used is you'd want to make sure it wasn't all twisted up and stuff, but I've used a loop runner and a carabiner on my tail of my climbing line, and now I have another work positioning device that I can use. And then of course, we always talk about like redirects with climbing, okay? And that's very common for us to use a redirect. Now, I would like to clarify that most commonly a redirect is considered to be something that is a continuance of your climbing system. So, just as an example, I'm just going to throw my loop runner up there again. I mean my adjustable friction saver, just as demonstration purposes. So I am climbing off of that union up there. Now I need to come over here and I'm going to run my line I'm going to run my line through this in a different union or off of a different branch or whatever, and we would consider that to be a redirect of sorts. Okay, that's what we all understand as a redirect, right? And you're going to pull basically all your slack or most of it as a general rule. And now this has become your climb side, but on this attachment point, whether it's dynamic, static, semi-dynamic, it doesn't matter. That's what we're talking about, right? But if you want to, you don't have to set it up that way. The tail of your line can actually become a second system, which most people call an M rig or a V rig, or it can become a completely independent climbing system, depending on how long your climb rope is. So you could avoid, if needed, and sometimes it's better to do so. I'm not going to get into all the reasons why at this moment. But you could essentially take your climb line, leaving some slack in it so that you can get to the ground on this side. Throw this over, and then essentially do the basic, you know, so this is just an alpine butterfly, of course, dress and set. And then run this through. Now we have a independent climb system. You still have your ability to get to the ground with this leg that you've been working with, but now you have another completely independent climbing system over here, even though it is the same rope. It's just the tail of your climb line, which can help with work positioning, because now you could use these and these as a V-rig, and there's some benefit to one that's not floating versus a V-rig that is floating. So you would want to keep in mind that you would make these decisions based on what is needed for your climbing style at the moment. Also, what your tie-in points are and if they can help you, that kind of stuff. Also, if you set up a system similar to this leg here that you have attached to the secondary point can also become a light rigging line if you need it to, as a tether. And I do this sometimes when I have like long extended but lightweight branches where I know that my climbing leg will be out of the way of me cutting. It'd be really hard for me to cut it. I can tie this off to something like that branch. I can tie this end around the tip of the branch and I can cut it, and now it'll fall, but I can pull it back up to me, untie it, and throw it off to the side so that it doesn't fall on like a skylight or something like that. You can also avoid this altogether, and if it's really lightweight branches, like I do a lot of willow, and there's dead willow that I use these for, I'll actually take my line when I'm in the tree and I will tie like a clove hitch, right? Tie a clove hitch on it, and I'll hook it to one of my tool carriers on my saddle, or around a secure spot on my saddle like a tool rack with a carabiner, because we're talking about branches that are only maybe 5 pounds. They're not very heavy at all. They're just really long, and they get really hard to control with one hand when you're cutting with a handsaw. And then I'll tie the end around the branch and I'll cut it, and it'll fall and it'll just hang on my saddle. I can grab it, pull it up to me, untie it, and drop it to the ground. And I don't need a rigging guy down there, a rope handler managing rope. He can be dragging brush or whatever, and it's not an inconvenience to me. Now, you don't want to do anything heavy that's hanging from that's attached to your saddle, right? You have to use good judgment. You don't want to put your saddle in potential failure, right? That would be bad. But very lightweight branches that are dead, that are smaller but kind of long and just hard, or that you're extending to try to reach and you can't get a good grip on them, that's a good option for you as well. If you can always tie it off with a loop runner or something like that, it's always better. So this would be like a last ditch effort for me. I don't do it very regularly. The only time I've ever done this is when I'm like hanging under a branch and I'm really out of position and I can't easily get it through something on the branch to hold it without it swinging back and hitting me. I'll tie it onto my saddle when it's really lightweight sometimes. That way it falls and it swings under me, not toward me, if that makes any sense. So the other thing that you can do is you can, of course, use the end of your climb line on your lanyard when you have it around to make one of those work positioning cinches where you use a prusik to swing it across, tie it to your saddle, and then it cinches and chokes off the tree stem when you're working on an actual stem. So you can, for instance, tie it off, and then it'd come to your saddle, and then you can tie off a choker. You'd want to make sure the length was right, and once again, this is a in case you don't have any other options kind of situation, not a what you want to do with everything, and then put a stopper knot in it. Well, I didn't tie that right, but I think you guys get the idea. I'm doing this in a rush, sorry. But you'd have a stopper, preferably not an overhand. I don't have enough tail to do a figure eight, but a stopper, and then that way you can slide it up and it'll choke off on the tree branch while it's attached to you, and it keeps you from falling away from the tree. I did a video on how to do that with your prusik, and it works better, but you can do it with the end of your climb line as well if needed. You just have to essentially essentially you're going to use a taut line hitch or a Blake's hitch to do the same kind of concept. You can use split tails to do it. There's a bunch of different things you can do it, but you can use the end of your climb line as well. And yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of cool little features you can use just your climb line for to work it out, to make it where it's practical for you. And the one thing you want to keep in mind, though, definitely want to keep in mind, this is your climb line. It's not cheap. It's not a rigging line. So you're going to want to be careful about how much friction you're going to put on it, or how much you're potentially going to like put it in the harm's way of being cut. You know, that wouldn't be a great idea. If you are climbing on a long lanyard and you run out of length, you can tie your climbing line to the end of it and extend your length a little bit. And especially if you're running two devices, like if you have another prusik setup, you can just add on your prusik setup and leave the one on, and then release all your weight onto the climb line now that's tied off, and then you can continue to rappel that way, making a closed system. Untie them and then retrieve your lanyard if you run out of length on your lanyard. There's so many little things that you can just do with your climbing line that substitute or supplement or little additions that help out with light rigging and climbing procedure for work positioning. Okay, so don't underestimate what you can do with it. One thing I do recommend is, like, this line here is my old Poison Hy-Vee. I'm about to retire this line. It needs to be retired. It's my oldest climbing line. It's got a lot of tufts in it. It's been washed numerous times and it's just frayed or whatever. So this line is one like I'm using today for demo, and that I play with concepts with. I think about what I can use, think about what I can do, and then I put all these into practice with this line. And then once I figure out that's what I do want to do or don't want to do, then I'll go and put it into application with my regular climb line, so that I know it's not going to tear up my climb line. Okay, also keep in mind the kind of tree you're climbing. This is a honey locust, has a very gnarly and aggressive bark on it, very sharp edges. So think about what climbing line you're on and what it might do to the climbing line if you do these procedures. Okay, so hope that gives you guys just a few ideas to think about and play with. I know a lot of this might be something you guys have heard before. If it is, I apologize, but I know some people haven't heard of these ideas or haven't thought of them, or especially newer climbers get fearful of using their climbing line for anything but climbing on. So I would recommend that you guys really think about the options you have, and never underestimate. Your climb line is way stronger than you probably think it is. You don't want to take it for granted. You don't want to abuse it too much, or it can become dangerous, but it's definitely got some benefit to it in additional uses other than just simply, you know, traversing and moving out, or climbing vertically and then moving out. Okay, so thanks, Tattooed Arborist. He says, thanks, man, very nice ideas. Jenna Rabanda Tree Service says, thumbs up. Still Hates Heights said nice. So some of you were definitely thinking about what I'm saying, which is very cool. Thank you guys. Gary, what is up? Nice to have you back with us a little bit. So thanks everybody, and I hope that my ideas can benefit all of you guys for YouTube and for Instagram. I hope to be doing some more of these. Right now it's still got to stay basic just because of my time, but I am using the new GoPro Hero 9 that Sean Thompson with Tattooed Arborist helped me get. You guys will see more clips of that coming up. I'm also starting to use the new GoPro Quick app, which is amazing. It's very cool for little clips of stuff going on. So you'll see more from that as well. And I'm working with a few companies to put together some seminars and stuff. We're gonna see if we can't get around, and I'm talking to a few guys in May. I would like to do a seminar that's a paid seminar. It'll have 3 of us as speakers, and we all own very different kinds of tree service companies, and we'll all hopefully be talking about what we have as a setup, why we chose those setups for our tree service company, and what it helps us to accomplish as far as business goes. So if you might be interested in something like that, we're thinking it's probably going to be a 4-hour seminar, and it would be somewhere between $60 and $80 a person, and I would like to have no more than 60 or 80 people max. So if you guys are interested in anything like that, you send me a DM, let me know. That'll help us get motivated with what we can potentially do for you guys, and we look forward to helping with any concepts or ideas you guys might be interested in as well in the future. The free lives will continue to happen, so don't misunderstand. The benefit of the seminars and my consulting directly is that I get to speak with you specifically about a topic, whereas in the free stuff you'll get a lot of the same information, but you'll have to like sift through a whole bunch of different IG lives or podcast episodes to get that whole topic range, versus getting it all in one seminar or consultant fee. Okay, so that's the difference. Thank you guys. Hope you guys are having a wonderful week. Hope your weekend turns out to be really well as well. I have not been consistent with my Instagram lives. I probably won't be as consistent with them for the next few weeks as I'd like to be. We're deep into the under contract stage on the house and looking at what's going on with that, but we'll have to see as time goes on. So thank you guys, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.